This is a Caps Radio podcast.
Getting straight back into it, I heard you say Hugh. Sorry, what's his name? Hugh Evans.
Evans, our CEO and
worked.
co-founder.
CEO and commander of the Global Citizen. Worked on this. I heard the way you said the word student. Was he a student at the time?
Indeed, he was a university student who then reached out to two of his friends who are also our other two co-founders.
Wow.
And it really started at that level. You can picture it, the way other organizations would start in a garage with humble beginnings. That's literally where it started. At university.
Now, reason being, we all about the curriculum, and I know there's millions of students out there that are listening to CAPS right now, and they're like, wow, does this mean that I can, in 10 years' time, I can start something now? There's a first-year student out there, or somebody in matric, who could be sitting with a gold mine of an idea, and they're saying, does this mean that I can start something while I'm in varsity and work towards it?
Absolutely. To the matric student out there, to the university student out there, the power is really in your hands, and you've got to believe in the power of the collective. And so, in as much as we want to take on societal issues single-handedly, we have to remember that the way we do it, and true to our model, is by rallying troops and building a movement behind the issue that you've identified. But it starts with really thinking about the root cause, thinking about how you engage people, and then thinking about a model of mobilization, a model of activation.
All right. I just needed to find out that you said something about you guys, being part of the fourth industrial revolution, and I just needed to find out how would it help, reducing poverty, because I know for a fact that to come fourth industrial revolution, it's all about technology, right? And in the long run, people won't have jobs because of technology. So how will that really help also eliminate, poverty?
The fourth industrial revolution is really going to set us up in terms of the efficiency gains that we can expect to see from technological advancements in specifically around when we think about poverty eradication and some of the tools that organizations are coming up with. Technology will merely advance those. If we think about more recently, we have had the great privilege of bringing on board Cisco as one of our partners over a 5-year.
Sorry, Cisco?
Cisco.
True Hill Cisco?
Blonde hair.
Not True Hill Cisco.
Oh, you mean the company?
Cisco, the tech company.
Oh, the tech company. I mean, hold on.
The Fortune 500 company, not Drew Hill Cisco, not blonde hair Cisco.
Okay, fantastic. Got you. Wow, but that's big.
And so we think about who are the partners that we need to bring on to take on this issue, to make our platform more accessible.
Oh, it makes sense.
And so Cisco being one of them. Of course, during the Mandela 100 campaign, we had Vodacom, who essentially made our offering accessible to people by 0 rating. And what that means is that with reduced data bundles, you're able to access the app. In fact, not even reduced, it was offered free of charge to our global citizens who are Vodacom subscribers. And so we're looking for those kind of partnerships who are able to elevate our offering and make our model and our and make action taking accessible to every single person.
Sounds very strategic.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now fast forward to maybe 2 years ago. Now Global Citizen is spreading, it's growing. Now the African division of it comes in, and that's where now you jump on board. Just take me through those first 6 months now that you've jumped on board with Global Citizen. What was that like for you?
Sure. Just to clarify one part is to say that the Mandela 100 campaign and the Global Citizen Festival that we all witnessed at the F&B Stadium on the 2nd of December was the inaugural event.
Wow.
So this was our first time on the continent.
Wow.
And so it has only been 6 months since we entered the South African market in terms of our presence in Africa. But of course, in fact, a year ago, a year ago tomorrow, on the 9th of July, July 2018, we had this press conference where we made this announcement about Global Citizen in South Africa, and made this, of course, artist lineup announcement, but also the partners that we had on board, either in a presenting or major partnership capacity. And so, as we think about what we're here to do, ours is really the vision and mission drive that fuels us. We're here to build and to continue building our movement on the continent, and if we bring it back to home within South Africa. And so these first 6 months for us have really looked like 4 areas of focusing our efforts around 4 areas of activity around our content. And I don't know if I can ask you, Palesa, I'm going to look at you because you're in my line of sight right now. Have you signed up?
I haven't.
Before?
Signed up. So are you a global citizen?
No.
Are you registered on our website?
No, but I'm gonna.
Okay, perfect.
Are you?
Okay, so this is for the Palesas. This is for the Palesas in South Africa to explain. I think it'll be more practical to explain what we've been up to. Our offering is centered around 4 areas of activity. And our content offering, we are here to tell the story of whether it is NGO partners that are already doing incredible work at a grassroots level, or wanting to amplify the efforts of governments and corporate partners who are doing incredible sustainability work. And we use our platform to tell those stories. And this is where Palesa, if you are a registered global citizen, you would be able to access that content. Our content team sits here, they write the stories from here, they're homegrown, and it's like, very authentic in terms of its delivery. And then campaigning, our other area of activity. So what we really focus on there is thinking about how we take the issues that we're teaching people around through our content, and then we design a series of actions. And through the actions, whether we're asking you to share a tweet or send an email or call one of the officials in one of the government agencies, we're putting the power in your hands as an engaged citizen to say, I've learned about the issue, and now I want to take action. And so these are this is what a campaign would look like. We think about those issues, we partner with the relevant parties, and then we present it to you to say, take action on these issues. Let your voice be heard in the political hallways. And then rewards. Now, what we have understood is that if we're engaging our global citizens, we will teach you about the issue through the content pieces, or we will share what we know through, specific agencies that specialize in it.
Absolutely.
We will campaign collectively around it and create a series of actions. We will then incentivize you to remain engaged through the process by giving you a chance to win tickets to some, whether it's a top tier concert or a meet and greet with an artist or a sports event. And so these are the rewards that we basically carved into our model. And then we also have a fellowship program that we're running that we've been busy with in the first 6 months. And this one is really around the crux of what we're here to do is to develop skills. We're trying to build human capital in South Africa. And so this is off the back of an incredible commitment that was made on stage by the Be Good Foundation, represented by Ivy McGregor and Steve and Tyler Perry. And the idea is that we, through the commitment that was made on stage, are able to take 50 fellows in South Africa through a year-long paid fellowship in which they're exposed to these areas that I've just spoken about. So content and campaigning and marketing or rewards. And collectively they're able to essentially upskill themselves and be ready for the job market.
Fantastic time right now. Just 4 more minutes before the end of the feature. It's 26 minutes after 2. It is the 8th of July. I'm sitting with the African director of the Global Citizen, and just really literally unpacking it. I don't know how much. So in fact, 80% of the stuff I wasn't even aware of, and I can just imagine. It's basically a world of where you can just throw yourself in and find where you can excel. And actually be a part of something that has got a target, a time frame. We're looking at 2030. You can spend the next 11 years of your life knowing that there's something meaningful that is international that you're a part of. Okay, let's take a short break and then stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Lunch on Caps.
Did you know that Pluto was the smallest and furthest planet from the Sun in our solar system? Now it is not even officially recognized as a planet.
Awesome science facts.
Caps Radio. Every child is a national asset.
Why am I so afraid? Fear is holding me down, stopping me from dreaming. I hear all these voices. I won't make it. What's the point? We're all going to die. Leaving me confused. Worse, when everyone around me feels defeated and sees no point. I can't carry on like this. Ignorance is not bliss. It's not about them, it's about me. Today I'm confronting my fears. Today I am getting tested for HIV. I'm making my move. Nakanjani.
At Caps Radio, we are bridging the gap between children and adults. I listen to Caps Radio all the time. I think you must do the same. It is good for me.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
Hi, my name is Lwazi. Catch me on the Young and Free Drive every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. right here on Caps Radio. It's about the curriculum.
Definitely is about the curriculum. You can look forward to the Young and Free starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Right now, I'm surrounded by some great people. Thank you. Shout out again to the people that make this show happen. Tuli and Nomfundo, thanks so much for such great content. Now remember, you can listen live on www.capsradio.co.za, and then it's at Caps Radio SA on all our social media platforms, that being Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Then the WhatsApp line for all your comments and voice notes and views: 0812785685. All right, Chebet, going straight back into, because of time constraints, I need to get back straight into unpacking the whole global citizen initiative that you're busy with. Look, it's huge, it's global. I want to focus just a little bit more on the campaigning side of it. What does that involve?
The campaigning side really starts with us thinking about the areas of development, the gaps in societal progress that we need to address as engaged citizens. You know, in thinking about the responsibility we bear, but also the responsibility we carry as human beings to think about. And when I say think about, I mean from a compassionate standpoint, thinking about those who have not, and those who are not privileged to be where others are. How do we close those disparities? How do we bring about greater equity and redistribution? And so our campaigning really is centered around thinking about those issues quite critically, then thinking about the policies around the issues. And we essentially focus our advocacy work on working alongside government, the relevant agencies, as well as local NGOs, stakeholders who essentially are our implementing partners on the ground, and then bridging that gap. So ultimately, our campaigning would be led by public-private partnerships. But you know, our role in South Africa is to be the activist, to be the advocate. And through that, we are here to inspire our global citizens and energize our global citizens to recognize that with our consciousness, tapping into our own ability to reach out to governments, we can then curate and put together a set of actions that they can respond to. So at the moment, something that we're very excited about is our effort around education, and specifically quality education. So if we think about where we are continentally in terms of our access to education, not just at a tertiary or secondary level point of view. I'm talking about, if we think about what we are offering children,
like early childhood development. We're seeing that if we don't get it right for our children, they're not going to be equipped to take on the jobs of the future. And so the African continent, as we understand it, has some of the worst education outcomes, really. And for South Africa, worse still, in that less than half of South African children have the ability to read and write at a basic level. So I'm talking about basic literacy, learning, reading for comprehension. In fact, a very scary statistic that we came across is that this was through the Progress in International Reading and Learning study that was released recently. 78% of grade 4 learners cannot read for comprehension. What does that mean? It means that there's going to be a knock-on effect further down the line. It means that the dropout rate increase. It's going to be higher. Exactly.
Because you look at 50% of that 74%, chances are might not even finish school.
That's it. And it just becomes a really vicious cycle and a downward spiral at that. And so something that we then want to step in and be really strong advocates along with our global citizens in is calling on the government to address foundational learning and the gaps in early childhood development.
Can I ask you something, Chebet? Just on that note, you're looking at this is continentally, and while we're looking at the South African stats, do you think, what is, from the research you guys do, what is the perception that you're getting from governments when you come up? And that's a scary stat, you know. It is a really, really scary statistic. And do you think governments, what type of reception are you getting specifically in Africa? I know you guys have just made your footprint in Africa. What are some of the, if any, what are some of the receptions that you guys are getting? How are African governments responding to you guys?
They're really responding favorably. I think a lot of African governments are responding to our big motto that we've been seeing everywhere. Our time is now. And we have to stop relying on overseas aid. We have to take a bit more ownership. And what we're really noticing and seeing even from the Mandela 100 campaign, where we were able to raise $7.1 billion worth of commitments, of which $367 million of that came from African investments.
Wow.
So being able to mobilize domestic investments is something that obviously has been incredible for us to witness, and we can certainly see that the reception, the eagerness to partner has been great. In fact, bringing it back to the education campaign that we just started talking about, last year President Ramaphosa committed $60 billion towards education at our platform at the Global Citizen Festival, and while this was obviously a significant amount to commit towards education, what's clear is that we are still not clear on where the funding, whether the funding will be allocated towards early childhood development resources. And so this is what we're really advocating around right now. We've got a campaign that is titled Raise the Grade.
Tell us more about that.
Raise the Grade is our effort as an organization to really work alongside partners. So we've got an example, Nali Bali. This is an NGO on the ground. Palisa, you were just asking me about some of the NGOs. There we go. So we're working alongside partners like Nali Bali to think about how do we secure more government commitments towards early childhood development and specifically early grade learning. Because by cultivating a culture of learning, by cultivating a culture of reading, by boosting resources towards learning, by investing more financially, or whether it's by ensuring that the resources are distributed to the relevant areas where they're underserved or they're too remote to get access. Ours is really to try and bridge that. We're trying to bridge that inequality. And so that is how we're working at the moment, and we're just really eager and excited to see how we continue pressing forward in our partnerships with government and NGOs.
Fantastic. Right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to just close in terms of this particular topic. But anyways, shortly, quickly, just it's hashtag back to school. Just looking at some news on Twitter. I know the young ones are getting ready for tomorrow. It's hashtag back to school tomorrow as public schools open for term 3. Now, as parents, it's important that we support children's learning by encouraging good school attendance, communicating with the school, and participating in decision making at school. That is a tweet from the Department of Basic Education. Just reminded me because Babu Alex has a school in. So anyways, let's take a short break and we'll be right back.
Hello, this is your girl Tim Deseta, and you're listening to Caps Radio. Caps Radio,
where it's about the curriculum.
Hi everyone, my name is Jazz. I'm from Ramfontein High School. I just like to encourage everyone to just don't do drugs, stay in school, push on through. It gets better eventually. Just stay tuned to Caps Radio. It's all about the curriculum.
All right, welcome back. We are seated with Chebet from the Global Citizen, who is the director of the African division. We're getting straight back into the story because of time constraints. Palesa, you had a question right there.
Yes, I do. You know what? It's quite interesting that you also focus on education as well. But I just also needed to know that in terms of your fees must fall and decolonizing education, I don't know if you were aware that it happened here, just around in Johannesburg. Students from Verds, in fact, all over the country, they were protesting, seeking free education and decolonizing education. So going back to, the scary statistics in terms of, our learners not performing well, and, the whole comprehension and reading is a problem. So what is your position as, Global Citizen in terms of, decolonizing our education? Because I feel like for the fact that we have such results, such, output, it's because of the education that we have. I don't think that it necessarily, resonates with our learners, with our students. Hence, we get such output as well. Okay. So what might be your position as a Global Citizen?
Okay. Yeah. We recognize the role that historical imbalances have played towards the deficiencies that we're seeing in the education system. Okay. And as we're thinking about policy reforms and changes that are necessary, or recommendations that we'd like to see happen, we are definitely mindful of the role that needs to be played in this decolonization. Because firstly, there's the content that we're reading. We are often under the impression that everyone can read for comprehension in English. And yet that's not the case, because if we're really going to be speaking to remote parts of the country, we need to recognize that we have 11 languages. Right. And so part of what we're working around, and if you will have our campaigns lead over one of these days, she'll expand more on this. I'm just conscious of time.
We'd love to.
But we're just excited that one of the big pushes we're having with the Raise the Grade campaign is in the distribution of these resources that are intended to boost early grade learning, that part of the resources would be distributed in one's mother tongue.
Wow.
And so exactly, because we're saying that a child should be able to read for comprehension in any language, but can they at least start with the language that they first recognize at home? We recognize the role that parents, caregivers, community-based organizations play in helping a child be best equipped for the future. And so that is a gap that needs to be understood. And I think if we're learning anything from history, it's that a child would be taught in their mother tongue at this level, and then they would go to school and it's being delivered in English. And so if we can get a child to at least learn and be literate and be able to, from a numeracy and learning, or at least comprehension point of view, understand it in that language, the translation into English further down the line becomes a lot easier. But it starts with the basic literacy, the basic learning, the basic understanding.
Wow, fantastic. Look, I wish we had more time, but obviously touching up with my producers, knowing that this can be ongoing because you guys have so much that you're doing. What we'd love to do is to keep in contact in terms of what you guys have coming up and whatever initiatives you do have, because we're in education space. Now, we've still got a bit of time. I just want to find out, to the little girl that's sitting out there, or the little guy who's sitting out there, they're listening to Chebet, the African Director for Global Citizen. What is your average day like?
My average day involves a lot of partner meetings.
Okay.
And by meetings, I don't mean the mundane, what is on the, what are we discussing and can we minute this and that. It's actually strategically thinking about what roles and responsibilities do we need to take on so that we can divide and conquer this huge vision that we've set out to end extreme poverty by 2030. So I spend a lot of my time trying to think about the sustainability initiatives that various partners are doing and how it aligns with
your strategies.
Our strategy. We look for organizations that are mission-led and that they have purpose to themselves with taking on some sustainability initiative that is ultimately going to contribute to one of the goals. And for us, we focus on the first 6 goals. But we really welcome conversations with anyone who has dedicated their time and energy towards the SDGs in general. It also involves working alongside an incredible team. So I'm very, very fortunate to work alongside a team of Africans. So we are based in Africa as an organization led by Africans, and we're here to solve African challenges. And so getting the cultural context is very important for us. And so we do that a lot. We debate a lot internally, and we really sharpen each other as we think about, how should we be taking on some of these societal issues which are extremely challenging to be thinking about. But of course, each one carrying the various areas of activity that I spoke about, whether it's our brilliant storyteller, our incredible campaigner, our head of policy, our marketing and communications lead, our rewards lead, our fellowship programs lead. We've got an incredible team that are just driving our overall mission. And of course, think about what are the key strategic partnerships for development that will make it happen, because what we do recognize for sure is that we cannot do this alone, and we rely on our collective efforts alongside corporates, governments, NGO partners, civil society leaders, but most of all, global citizens.
Fantastic. Right, just before I let you go, do you want to maybe leave any, in terms of social media platforms, where people who are listening would like to get involved in any other way? So maybe your online portals and anywhere that people can get hold of you.
Yes, absolutely. If you're not following us, please follow us at global. GC Africa, at GC Africa. Palesa, I love how swift you are. Super efficient. And then, of course, if you are not registered as a global citizen, please go on www.globalcitizen.org. That's www.globalcitizen.org. And we look forward to telling you more about the work of the various partners that we work alongside, and we look forward to seeing you take action on the key issues we need to end extreme poverty by 2030.
Chebet, thank you so much for unpacking what I've always known Global Citizen to just be a concert, so only to find out that there is so much for everybody to get involved and start doing. All the best for everything, and hopefully we can maybe speak to people from various departments within your organization, especially since we're in the education space, but we will certainly be doing a follow-up on all your work.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
This
Fantastic.
is Caps Radio. We are all about education.